Alright, doing another video here on diarrhea. Alright, so with diarrhea, what we need to figure out first is it acute or chronic? So acute is typically lasting less than 2 weeks, chronic is typically lasting more than 2 weeks. So let's go down the acute path first. First of all, you need to understand pretty much all diarrhea is going to be viral, okay? If it's viral, you just need to wait a couple days, it's going to go away, you need lots of water. Sometimes you give them pyramide, never seen that done, but usually just kind of a wait out thing. If it's not viral, then you're thinking, well, what's going to lead you down the path of thinking it's not viral is usually there's going to be a really high fever, there's going to be severe pain, the person's going to be more likely immunocompromised, or maybe they had a lot of antibiotics recently and now they've got C. diff, and it could be bloody, or there could be pus in there, and it's going to be greater than 3 days, because usually viral diarrhea goes away within 3 days. So first thing you do, because this is the most common one, is you're going to test them for C. diff. C. diff positive means you're going to see the person's going to have watery diarrhea. It's going to have that C. diff kind of smell. You're going to test it for C. diff using the antigen amplifier thing. You're going to give them oral metronidazole, and you're going to possibly give them a fecal transplant if there's some complication. You can't give them oral metronidazole. If it's super severe, this person's dying from C. diff, then you might have to give them IV metronidazole and give them oral vancomycin. Okay, usually not necessary unless it's really bad. Okay, let's say you did the C. diff test negative. Okay, so they've got one of these symptoms possibly. It's less than 2 weeks, and they have a negative C. diff test. Well, then now you're going to need to look in the stool. You're going to see, all right, do I see in the microscope or the test white blood cells, red blood cells? Okay, so here's a little mistake in my thing here. From here you go positive red blood cells, white blood cells, and negative red blood cells, white blood cells. So let's follow down the positive path first, negative path first. So we're going over here, negative red blood cells and white blood cells. First thing you need to do then is you need to examine the stool. Okay, examine the stool. If there's nothing there, you don't see any bugs growing or anything, like microbes, then it must have been viral. Okay, it's just a really bad case of viral for whatever reason. That's what you usually assume. Now, if you do see something, then you can not let it pick up with these kind of history sort of things. If it's C. diff, then you're going to have recent antibiotic usage. If it's E-tech, you're going to see they probably most likely travel to Central America. If it's Vibrio cholera, they probably went to a third world and they didn't boil their water there or something. Staph aureus, they probably ate like a egg salad or potato salad. Bacillus cereus, they probably had reheated rice. Giardia, they probably went camping with fresh water and they drank out of the stream or something. In these cases, you give the appropriate antibiotics, and we'll go into that right here. So let's say that when you tested for red blood cells and white blood cells, it was positive, okay, positive red blood cells and white blood cells, in which case, then you're going to look at a culture, okay? And if there's a positive culture, then we're thinking, oh, this must be one of the invasive species, as opposed to the enterotoxic species, which was down the case of no red blood cells or white blood cells. But the invasive species, these are the ones that have the red blood cells and white blood cells, and they are Campylobacter. That's usually the most common one. EHEC, it's going to have that hemolytic uremic syndrome, or sepsis, septicemia, hemolytic uremic. Anyway, I can't think of the word right now. HUS is what I always call it. Basically, you see the schistocytes on the biopsy, broken up red blood cells. Then you got the Shigella. The person probably going to have eaten some poultry or egg recently that had it in there, or Entamoeba histolytica, and that usually people with HIV. And if it's one of these ones, then you give the appropriate antibiotics. Same answer as the enterotoxic pathogens. So what if you went up here and you cultured it after seeing there was red blood cells and white blood cells, and there was a negative culture? Okay, if there's a negative culture, hey sweetheart, this is my daughter Lydia. If there was a negative culture, then you need to go to thinking this is probably chronic diarrhea. So in which case you're going to go up here. So to chronic diarrhea. Under chronic diarrhea, you need to rule out laxatives. You need to rule out that could be medications. You're going to rule out that they're lactose intolerant, and you're going to rule out celiac sprue. Okay, and under this one, you're going to think three major possibilities here. One is going to be secretory, or another one's going to be osmotic, and the last one you're thinking inflammatory. So secretory, osmotic, or inflammatory. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so if it's osmolar, then you're going to look at these three different criteria here. Okay, there's not three. There's like what is that? 7 criteria here. So you're going to look at the 7 criteria: osmolar gap, fecal white blood cells, fecal red blood cells, mucus, NPO, nocturnal symptoms, meaning they have the diarrhea even if they're asleep and not eating anything, and fecal fat. And as you can see here, secretory pretty much has none of these things except for the nocturnal symptoms, which means it's not really related to them eating. Osmotic is going to have the osmolar gap. Let me talk about how to calculate that real quick. The stool osmolar gap is going to be measured in osmoles. It's going to be measured osmoles minus calculated osmoles, and it's going to be 290, which is the typical one you just go by, which is the measured osmoles, minus 2 times sodium plus potassium. So, I might have done my math wrong there. I threw that together kind of quick. Double check that one right there. So if it's going to be less than 50, then we're thinking secretory, and if it's more than 100, then we're thinking osmotic. So osmotic, yes, for the osmolar gap, they need to stop eating food, and there might be some fecal fat. And last is inflammatory. This is where you're going to have the white blood cells, red blood cells, and mucus, and then you have a colonoscopy in this case. And the other ones, if it's secretory, they need to be tested with their it could be some sort of hormone-secreting tumor. They need to get an EGD and a C. diff test. If it's osmotic, then you're going to give them, you're going to really check into history and physical, do an EGD and a biopsy. And then with all these, consider the possibility of it being a VIPoma, in which case you resect it, Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, where they'd be really high gastrin, or it could be carcinoid. And if it's that one, then you're going to have the serotonin, the flushing, the diarrhea, and the resection. So anyway, I hope that was helpful for you, and best of luck to you.